Hello, business builders, and welcome to Business for Breakfast, where business is the most important meal of the day. I'm your host, Aaron Novinger, the Venti Business Guy, or VBG for short. Our goal in this channel is to give you a ton of micro lessons to help you mind your own business. Hang out with me today as we drive and dive, where we dive into topics for really every business owner, especially us mom and pop Venti shops. Today, it's all about you finding purpose. Let's buckle up and let's roll, shall we? I actually think it said it was a high since the 40s, I believe. All right. And then all of a sudden, it got me thinking, why is that? We know the last 10 to 12 years, our government really has been playing identity politics, and regardless of your opinion, it has absolutely affected the military and, let's be honest, the lethalness, if that's a word, of the military. And with Pete Hegseth getting in there, he's made that a big priority, is making the military lethal again. Because of that, we've got enlistments at an all-time high, which is fantastic, by the way. But it reminded me why. And I've said this for years. I've started my first business at 13, so I've been a business owner basically my whole life. To me, there's three things worth dying for: God, country, small business, right? And in the military, it's very easy to have purpose. That's why you typically will find a high rate of suicides with individuals that get out of the military, because purpose that they once had is no longer in their life, and they don't know why they need to be getting up in the morning. And that moves to today, right? Purpose. And it takes me back a few years ago. I was watching an interview with Shia LaBeouf. That's how I pronounce it right. LaBeouf. And he was talking about a conversation that he recently had with his therapist, and asked his therapist, "Do you ever think I'm going to be happy again?" And his therapist said, "I don't think that's the goal. I think the goal we need to have for you is to find purpose. I think what's going to save you is purpose. Finding happiness through purpose is what gives us meaning." And so it really reminded me, it took me back to that word purpose, what it means for us as business owners, what it means for dads, what it means for Americans, whatever. You get what I'm saying. But here's the kicker. I think most of us are like hustling to buy things that make us happy. And it does release dopamine, which gives us short-term happiness for sure. And unfortunately, we have the Fortune 500 companies spending untold billions every year, beating it in our brain that we can't be happy until we buy their latest product or service, right? So we just have it. Commercialism, capitalism is just beating against us. But I think chasing happiness really is that never-ending cycle, wanting more and then still feeling unfulfilled, right? I don't know. It's like trying to fill a bucket that's got a hole in the bottom of it. You're working really hard, but it's basically emptying as fast as you're filling, right? Or you pour, but it actually never fills up. And honestly, this isn't just like some fluffy concept. This is like a fundamental life principle. You can't be full or satisfied by only eating rice cakes. Woo-hoo! Did you hear that? You can't be full or satisfied by only eating rice cakes. And they have delicious rice cakes. But if you've ever had a rice cake, it might be great. Yes, it tastes like you're eating flavored styrofoam, for sure. But within 30 minutes, you're like, huh? I'm starving again. Because it just can't fill you, right? You know, what we're seeing really for the first time in history is a purpose crisis, right? Especially amongst our youth. Our millennial and especially our Gen Z generations, honestly, they're just paralyzed from a lack of purpose. They chase those tiny little dopamine releases from the things that make us temporarily happy, rather than having a reason to get up early and to get out the door and to have a reason to come home in the evening, right? Honestly, that's probably the best way to define it, right? It's the driver that gets you out of bed in the morning. And I know you're thinking, oh, I have a job, for sure. You're right. I'm not disagreeing with that, but something beyond money, okay? I've been super lucky enough that really my whole life, I've always had something that has gotten me out of bed other than making money. And money's nice, and it's great, but it's really short-filled, and those that don't have a bigger purpose or calling tend to get caught up in having to buy things because that's the only really source of fulfillment that they really have is, oh, that new thing or that thing. I got to buy that, replace that, fix that, upgrade that. You get what I'm saying, right? There's an old saying, the more stuff that we own, the more the stuff owns us. It's the same thing, okay? But for me, I was thinking about this when I was preparing this little lesson, and I was thinking about, for me, I've never struggled with purpose. So in my 20s, I was voted class clown. I got the lowest SAT score of anybody in my senior class. I got a 590. The only person I've ever heard that got a lower SAT score than me was Kevin Hart. I think he got a 545, but he admittedly drew pictures for his answers. I studied my tail off and got a 590. I think you make a 450 for just putting your name on the paper. And back in the day, they said what I had was a learning disability. We now it's called a learning difference, right? It's just learning different. But you've got to have that thing. For me, in my 20s, was coming back to my 10-year high school reunion voted most successful. I know it sounds stupid, but it was like a big deal to me. Oh, also, Rebecca and I had our son at age 20. And if you don't think being a dad in your late teens, early 20s doesn't give you purpose, oh, playa, you got to have kids when you young, okay? You'll realize, especially for a dude, it does give you a sense of purpose. And by the way, I'm not saying this is every guy. Obviously, we're talking about the rule. There's always exceptions to the rule. When I was 30, my close friend Lewis called me into ministry. Yes, this dude was in ministry for 10 years, and I pastored for 7 of those 10 years. But I really learned while I was in ministry a new definition of ministry, and I'll talk about it later here in the lesson. But just think of it in its purest form as helping people suffer less, right? So helping people suffer less. And I became really obsessed with helping people suffer less. Everybody around me, everybody I was in ministry with, everybody in business, I just wanted to help everybody. I woke up every morning with the purpose of how can I help everybody today stress a little less today. I get in my 40s, and then I got a premonition that small business is going out of business. And then all of a sudden, I was born with really, I call it my magnus opus, but really it's that final masterpiece of really helping and saving small business. So I really get to combine my two loves, right? Helping small business, entrepreneurs suffer less, by creating a true partnership with our entrepreneurs, by teaching and coaching them how to succeed, right? Steve Jobs would ask himself this question every morning. If today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? Did you hear that? Isn't that powerful? If today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? And Steve said that if he had too many days in a row of saying no, he would make changes almost instantly. It was like almost like a daily barometer or temperature check for him. So, how do we shift from a rice cake, because we all know purpose is a steak, right? But before we can figure out our purpose, we really need to define it. And so I'm going to take you back to 2006 when my close friend and mentor, Lewis, called me into ministry. Lewis, I basically got asked to do some type of like ministry thing at church, and I was going to Lewis, and Lewis said, bro, you have a calling on your life. And I'm like, Louie, you got the wrong dude, okay? That's not me. I'm a dirty dude, man. And Louie, and I swear, bro, this dude was like a Mexican Jesus. I don't think he would even mind I say that, because he literally was, honestly, He was Latino Jesus. That's who Lewis was to me, still is actually. And he always talks in parables, which is also cool. But Lewis said, look, dude, if everybody were clean, there'd be nobody in ministry. And I did something for the first time, and I'd never done it before. And from that moment forward, I've always done it. I learned to trust what Lewis saw in me more than what I saw in myself. And because of that, I jumped into ministry. And then within a few years, I was the small groups pastor and the volunteer coordinator. I was honored with the ability to lead the two largest ministries in the church. Honestly, probably one of the greatest blessings, gifts of my entire life. And everything I do today was during that time frame. But after about 3 years of being in ministry, I took Louie to lunch and I said, Louie, I said, I'm loving this weekend stuff. I want to do more of the weekend stuff and less of running the practice. And Louie, also like me, was bivocational. He's a full-time registered nurse, and then he was Rebecca and I's young married pastor on the weekend, and then he had a home church as well. And so during our 20s and 30s, he was just a huge instrumental piece of our life, to be honest with you. He and his wife, Alisa, both rock stars. But Louie said, when I first got in ministry years ago, I was struggling with the same thing. My mentor gave me the best definition of ministry I've ever heard. He said, don't think of ministry as in what you do on the weekend. He said, first of all, Jesus did no ministering in the church. And I was like, okay, that's true. And he said, think of ministry in its purest form as simply helping people suffer less. Helping people suffer less. And it was like a light bulb moment. And Louis said, when my mentor told me that, he said, what I realized is what I do in the hospital is more ministry than what I was doing on the weekend. And for me, the following Monday, what we do in the practice is more ministry than what I was doing on the weekend. And that's how I define purpose, helping people suffer less, right? And you're wondering, like, cool, that sounds fantastic. I own a gas station. I love it. It's not really my purpose. How do I find my purpose? Okay, I'm going to walk you through a scenario, okay? Now, I want you to just play along, and I'm going to ask you a question here in a minute. And when I ask you the question, without hesitating, okay, because your subconscious is going to answer and your conscious is going to override your subconscious, okay? So this has to be the first thing you think of when I ask you this question, okay? All right, play along. Let's say, and the funny thing is I ask this exact question in all of our interviews, and it's because at our accounting firm, we hire for life, and we're very big on hiring people and then eventually finding their talent and then moving them to their talent. And I ask this question when we do our interviews, and it always throws people because they've never really heard it before, because it's really designed to help us know long-term where we need to take this person. All right, so here's the scenario. All right, so let's say Monday morning, you're at work and you get a random phone call, and you see this caller ID and you don't actually recognize the number, okay? But the caller ID says it's blah blah's name, comma, ESQ, Esquire, which means attorney. And you're like, okay, that's strange. I know this isn't, I don't know how many debts, bill collector. So you answer this phone call, and the person answers the phone and says, hi, we've never met. My name is David. I am actually your grandfather's estate attorney. And you're like, oh, okay, that's weird, because I know my grandfather just recently passed away, but I didn't really have a relationship with him. And he says, yes, so the reason why I'm calling is because recently your grandfather passed away, and even though you guys didn't really have a relationship and you guys were estranged, your grandfather watched you his whole life, and you know that your grandfather was unbelievably wealthy, and that's a big reason why you were estranged from your grandfather, was because everybody else in the family just mooched off of him. That's basically, they got what they wanted by being nice to him, and you were very authentic and true to yourself, and you never did that. And David, the attorney, says, you don't know this, but you're the only person in the family that didn't do that. Therefore, your grandfather wrote you into his trust. Congratulations. You're retired today. And the attorney says, you know that your grandfather made all of his money in business, and so he wants to share that with you. And he says, starting the 1st of next month, you are going to have $50,000 deposit, ACH, direct deposit, the 1st of every month until you take your last breath. Your grandfather knows that you're very frugal, that you watch your pennies and your dimes. That's why he wrote you in the trust, which means from this day forward, you're retired, meaning you're working, right? But it's because you want to, not because you have to, because your grandfather was a big believer in hard work. And so there was only one stipulation in this, and that is you must work 30 hours a week doing something. Doesn't matter what. You don't have to do it for money. You can volunteer. You can own a business. You can do whatever you want to do. You can die for golf balls at the country club. Your grandfather does not care what you do, and he knows that you're only going to use a piece of what he's going to give you every month. And he knows that when you pass away, that you will also be generationally wealthy, and you're going to teach the same principles to your kids and grandkids. And congratulations, you're wealthy. And then David just asks you one question. Because you have to work, what do you do? What's the first thing you think of? That is your purpose, right? That's your calling. Okay. So I think you can understand a little bit here on how we need to define it. Now, sometimes what we do Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, is our calling and our purpose, but sometimes it's not. But I'm hoping that today's lesson, I can give you some, I don't know, like a little, it's like a cheat code or something into finding purpose with what we're doing, because a lot of times we don't see it because we have to wear the other lens, right? So think about your business right now. Are you just chasing the dollar, or are you truly serving your community? What impact do you want to make? Just take a moment right now and do a thought audit. What's your core values? What are you passionate about? How can you integrate that into your existing business? Don't get me wrong, this thing's got to generate money. We've got to pay bills, right? We got to feed our families. We got responsibilities. But when money becomes the sole focus, I don't know, we tend to lose sight of the bigger picture. You see what I'm saying? It's like focusing on the individual bricks, really, instead of this big, beautiful house that you're building. At our accounting firm, even though obviously we are a for-profit business, all of our team members act as though we work at a nonprofit, which is unique because that's typically not what you will see. We honestly spend, I don't know, just as much time coaching our owners with like budgets and cash flow plans as we do in their bookkeeping and like tax and payroll work. But here's the thing, our philosophy since the beginning of the firm has always been one thing. The only way we're going to be here 20 years from now is to make sure that you're still here 20 years from now. You come first. You're the most important thing, because that's how we've been here for over half a century, by making sure you're still here. Okay, I can see how you can do that and come up with that little helping people suffer less for business owners. Because true, we're all just beautiful disasters and we're spinning all these plates like circus performers. And yes, we all need help. But I own a coffee shop. How can I find purpose in that? I think the answer lies in almost like thinking of your business that it actually can be ministry, okay? You're like, might be thinking, what, ministry? I just sell coffee. Yeah, but think about it, right? You're not just selling coffee. You're creating a space for community, like a place where people can, where they find that moment of joy in their day. Do you understand that coffee shop owners, I'm not lying here, I just want you as an owner, sit in the corner and watch. There's community, there's conversations. You always find people like studying and reading the Bible or studying and reading a book, right? You're helping them suffer less by providing a little bit of happiness. I know of a coffee shop, I'm not kidding, who started a pay it forward program, right? So customers can buy a coffee for someone in need, right? You're thinking it's a small gesture, but it creates that ripple effect of kindness and connecting with other people, right? That owner isn't just selling coffee, they're really building community. They found a way to integrate their values in with their business, and it's made a difference. You see what I'm saying? All right, now let's bring this back to the purpose and talent stack, right? Let's go back to the grandfather scenario, and we really revealed, that really does reveal our passions, right? All right, but what if you do that scenario and you realize that your passion is teaching? How can you weave that into your current business? Maybe you offer workshops, or you create online content, or mentor other entrepreneurs, right? The possibilities are endless. You're stuck eating rice cakes and you're in this rice cake cycle. You're constantly craving more and you're never satisfied because you're not doing your purpose, right? So this week, I'm gonna challenge you, right? Identify your biggest stronghold, okay? What's that one thing that's holding you back, right? What's the one thing holding you back from pursuing purpose? Is it fear? Is it doubt? Is it lack of time? Once you identify it, you can really start dismantling it. Imagine the transformation that's going to happen when you align your work with your purpose. And trust me, you can do this. You can do this, man. I want you to wake up excited, energized, ready to make a difference today. It won't feel like work anymore. It's going to feel like you're living out your calling. Most people have a job. Few have a career, and fewer still have a calling. And if you can pursue your calling as your career, are you kidding? It's like hitting the jackpot. You will literally work 12 hours a day, but it won't feel like work because you're doing what the Creator put you here to do. My hope and prayer for you this week is simple, man. Lord, show our entrepreneurs they have gifts and talents that you gave them, that they are supposed to give to the world. Help our entrepreneurs realize that they have purpose. Show them the vision of how they can help their customers suffer less. And I know for each business that there is a vision for ministry. Help them see it, Lord. Give us the courage this week to step outside our comfort zones and pursue the dreams you've placed in our hearts. Remember, finding your purpose is the key to unlocking true fulfillment, right? In your business, in your life, really in everything. It's about more than just making money. It's about making a difference. You must have a reason to get out of bed, help others suffer less, and watch your business transform. Now, I'd love to hear from you this week. What's the one thing this week that you're going to do to move closer to your purpose? How are you going to help people suffer less this week? Please share in the comments. So remember, guys, whether you think it's hard or you think it's easy, you're right. You know what time it is, guys. Oh, come on now. It's time to get to work.